What's up, boys? Welcome back to Shooting It Straight. Let's have a discussion today about Glocks, alright? Why do I prefer a Glock over the other handguns on the market today, particularly as an EDC? And, why should you consider owning one as well? And why do I believe that a Glock is the perfect choice for the first-time gun owner or concealed carrier? And this is another question also that was asked to me by a friend on why I chose a Glock. So instead of answering this question in one of the frequently asked questions videos, I'll just do a complete video on it overall, since there's other aspects of it in there I'd like to cover as well. All right, let's start things off by first looking at how my Glock life began. Now, I was already very much into the world of carrying and shooting handguns by the time the first shipment of Glocks came over to America back around the mid-1980s. I know, Glocks began production in 1982, but it took a while for them to get here because of our import laws and other ATF restrictions. Now, prior to this, all semi-auto handguns were all steel, of course, and my preference at the time was the Colt 1911. And I never actually handled a Glock until around late 1990 or very early 1991, I think, which was when I served on the testing and evaluation board of my police department, while we were searching for something to replace our old Smith & Wesson revolvers. We tested 3 different semi-auto pistols for 2 weeks, and the Glock was one of those 3. And I must say at the time, I was resistant to the thought of using a plastic gun. You know what I mean? The trigger felt awful. The gun was square and blocky. The grip angle of it sucked. It's hard for us to get used to. And it was also my first exposure to a pistol with an internal striker-fired system, as opposed to an exposed hammer, like on the 1911. So initially, I was really not very impressed with a Glock. Now, for those 2 weeks, we shot the absolute shit out of all 3 guns, and the other 2 guns, and I may be wrong here, but I think I'm right, were a Beretta 92, which we deemed to be just too damn big, and a Smith & Wesson 5906. And I wasn't a fan of the double action trigger system. And that 2-week T&E session consisted of each gun being completely disassembled, cleaned, and then reassembled. Now, the Glock never once malfunctioned with any of the different types of ammo we shot. The Glock was also by far the easiest gun to disassemble, clean, and reassemble, and it had less parts than the other 2 guns. As well, the Glock was much more simple to operate. There's no safeties or decockers to deal with. It had a consistent trigger pull from first shot to last shot. There was no traditional double action first shot and then single action subsequent shots. Simplicity here was important since our officers would need to go through a transition training course from revolvers to semi-automatics, and many of those cops were unfamiliar with semi-automatic handguns. The Glock was more accurate, reliable, and simple than the other 2 contenders. So I was quickly becoming a big fan of this new Tupperware gun, as we called it. Now, ultimately, the Glock 19 was unanimously recommended and subsequently adopted for a short time until we traded up to the Glock 22. And soon after that, I began to use my duty Glock 22 in my CPSL matches, and I never had a problem. And the 40 caliber also kept me in the major category of power. All right, so that was my introduction to Glocks. Now, let's talk about for the first time gun owner. Now, I gained first-hand experience in seeing how easy it was for people unfamiliar with handguns or those unfamiliar with semi-autos to learn how to shoot these semi-autos, or to retrain others, as long as the gun used is kept simple. That's the trick, keeping it simple. Glock does that perfectly. As I mentioned, there's no manual safeties or decockers to fumble with or to forget about. There's no having to get used to two different kinds of trigger pulls and things of that nature. You just point and pull the trigger. That's it. It can't be any more simple than that. Additionally, Glocks come in all sizes and all calibers, everything from subcompacts to competition grades and everything in between. Beginning with the Gen 4, as I have right here, they now come with the MBS, multiple backstrap system. So you can obtain whatever grip size you need that best suits your hand, or you can just, as I have done, elect not to use any of these spares at all and just go with what the gun comes with. And that fits my hand perfectly, so I have no need for any of these. But it does come with that for those that need to size up better. So, the claim that Glocks are somehow not a good gun for first-time gun owners, I think, is absolute bullshit. I think they're actually the best gun for new gun owners, simply because the guns are so easy to operate, easy to maintain, and they are extraordinarily reliable. Now, there are yet others that claim that new gun owners should have some type of a manual safety. Well, I don't like those at all, but that's a personal choice. That should be left up to the gun owner. I don't like manual safeties at all on any firearm. I see them as just an unnecessary step that you have to go through in order to simply use your gun. I want to be able to just point and pull. That's it. That's all I want to worry about. Listen, and I know people say, well, it's for safety. It's for safety. They're unfamiliar. It's for safety. Listen, firearms are not meant to be safe in the first place. Your safety is your trigger finger and your brain. If properly used, these two safeties are all you really ever need. Now, however, all Glocks do have 3 internal safety features that prevent discharges unless the trigger itself is pulled completely rearward. So that in and of itself should be sufficient for any competent gun owner. So the contention that Glocks are not a good handgun choice for new shooters is completely invalid, I'm thinking. Okay, now let's answer that question that the person asked me, why I prefer a Glock. I've been carrying and shooting Glocks for well over 30 years now, both on duty and off, and in IDPA and CPSL matches. I've been through both the basic Glock Armorer's course and the advanced Armorer's course. I know these handguns inside and out. I know their strengths and I know their weaknesses. Now, I realize that a Glock is not for everybody, and that's okay. They're not perfect, but I think they're close to it. I chose the Glock because they are battle proven, they're simple, they're affordable, and they have the features that I look for. Glocks, all models and calibers, are the most reliable semi-autos I have ever seen. No matter what kind of ammo is used and regardless of heavy fouling, they just keep running. Now, granted, I've seen several other semi-autos that were extremely reliable too, the Springfield XD models, the Beretta 92, the Beretta APX, the infamous Browning High Power, and the SIG P226. You know, those seem to stand out as well. Here's another one. They are lighter in weight than most other handguns of equal size, yet amazingly durable and dependable. The polymer frame and the magazine surface, this polymer coating on the magazine body, and other polymer components are comprised of nylon 66, but with a reinforcement process, and it's not fiberglass, that is known only to Glock. Gaston Glock calls this proprietary manufacturing secret Polymer 2. This makes the frame more resistant than carbon steel and stronger than alloy frames, yet lighter. The only weakness of the frame is through either very intense direct heat or constant and prolonged exposure to UV light, or they can be damaged hydrolytically by scalding water, which can cause a chemical reaction and change the molecular structure of the polymer. Other than that, they're practically indestructible. I've always found them to be very accurate, just as accurate as pistols with a much higher price tag. The spare factory magazines are easy to find and are inexpensive, around 25 bucks. They work flawlessly, they are ultra durable, and they're very dependable. Glocks are very easy and inexpensive to maintain. They have fewer components, 34 components in most pistols, so that's fewer than almost all other semi-auto pistols. They are stupidly simple to completely disassemble, clean, or repair and reassemble anywhere, out in the field or at home. They have a long and proven worldwide reputation for being durable and ultra reliable. Glocks have been subjected to torture tests more than any other firearm in history and has made it through all of them. Glocks have no cumbersome thumb safeties or decocker controls to mess with. The striker fire system ensures a consistent trigger pull from the first shot to the last shot. And in general, striker fired guns have roughly a 44% shorter lock time than hammer fired guns, external hammer fired guns. There's no grip safety like that. There's none of that to worry about, which is, in my opinion, a totally useless feature. Because, you know, sometimes we may not be able to get the perfect grip on our gun in a deadly force incident. We may have to be down here, especially if we're on the ground or in direct contact with a bad guy wrestling around with him or something. I still want my gun to be able to fire, even without having a perfect grip on it. That will prevent that, or it has a chance to prevent that, and I don't like even taking that chance. Replacement parts for a Glock are available literally everywhere. Any part at all, whether a factory OEM part or an aftermarket part, they are in abundance, and they're usually very inexpensive. Now I know what you're thinking, but you also carried the Springfield XD as your EDC for 9 years after you retired. That's true, and I do love my XD pistols. They are just as reliable and durable as any Glock I've discovered. But the Glock in 45 ACP is simply just too large for me. It's a massive chunk of gun. The XD and XDM in 45 is a much better fit for my medium-sized hands. The only XD feature I don't like is that grip safety. I wish they would have just done away with that, but I have managed to learn how to learned how to adapt to it again. Used to have to do that with the old 1911. Of course, in competition, we'd just take a rubber band and wrap it around, put it around there, and that would hold the grip safety down, so we didn't have to worry about it. But I'm perfectly happy with a Glock 22 or even a Glock 23. I'm not at all a fan of micro guns, or really any gun smaller than a Glock 23 size. There's just not enough gun for a proper grip with anything smaller than that. Now, some have expressed concerns that Glocks don't have features such as a loaded chamber indicator or a cocked indicator, except they do. A fully forward trigger tells you that it's cocked. Okay, it's ready to be fired. The extractor tells you if a round is chambered. Take a look at it now. It's even, it's level. Take a look at it now. Now you can feel it and you can see it. It's not much, but it's there. It's a protuberance. You can feel it and you can see it. You can visually see it from the top. So it does have a loaded chamber indicator, and it does have a cocked indicator on there. Now, let's talk about those polymer sights. All right, yeah, they're cheap. They're meant to be. Although they work fine for most applications, Glock knows that the majority of serious gun owners have personal preferences when it comes to sights. They assume that most of us will change out factory sights on most of our guns anyway. Now, this is one way that Glock is able to keep consumer prices down. I'll put it to you this way: if Glocks were to suddenly start replacing these cheap polymer sights on here, on the standard guns, with higher quality steel sights, the retail price of the standard Glock pistol would increase by around $75 to $100. And it still may not be the type of sights you prefer. So you may wind up changing those out anyway. Personally, I prefer to keep the retail price low, and then I can choose my own personal favorite sights later. All right, fellas, I think that's all for now. Listen, I hope you got something of value from this video, because that's always my goal. If you did, hit the thumbs up button and let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Antonius, and I never stop shooting it straight. Ciao.